Good evening. Today is Monday, November 13th, and the time now is 6:01, and I will call the order of this regular meeting of Town of Mead Board of Trustees. In accordance with the town's remote participation and remote meeting policy adopted by the Board of Trustees on March 13th, 2023, by resolution number 21-R-2023, remote participation will be allowed. The meeting link has been provided on the town's website, designated posting place for 24 hours prior to this meeting. I'd like to remind everyone present, both in person and virtually, of our town's guidelines for public comment at open meetings and public hearings. Copies of these guidelines are available online and at the entry table. There are 2 public comment opportunities on the agenda tonight for you to address the board on any subject, whether it is on the agenda or not. Mary, roll call, please.
Mayor Whitlow.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright.
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Broadhead.
Here.
Trustee Harris. Here. Trustee Parr.
Here.
Trustee Schranz.
Here.
Mayor Whitlow, today is Monday, November 13th, 2023, and you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Please join me in a moment of silence to honor our friend and colleague, Tim Mormon, who passed away October 30th. Mr. Mormon served as a planning commissioner since 2017 and volunteered in other roles. Mr. Mormon was a remarkable community leader, and he will be missed. I thank you very much for your time, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. Next is our review and approve agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda tonight? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as is. Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Broadhead.
Yes.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Parr.
Yes.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion carries. We have an agenda tonight. And next is our staff report by our town manager. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. You have my report. I do want to point out I put it in my report, and I also put it in my email to you all on Thursday, that we were selected for the $1.5 million grant for the community center from DOLA. That's an incredible achievement. That brings our running total to almost $5.7 million in grants that we've gotten this year. And I think it's attributable to this great staff. So it's such a great way to leverage local funds. And I'm just really excited about it. And I really appreciate the board getting behind these efforts. You will continue to see more applications. We're going to be applying for a grant, for a planning grant for some code revisions at our next board meeting. So just stay tuned. So that's exciting news. Please remember December 5th at 11 o'clock, the state is planning that ribbon cutting for the new lanes that are going to be opening that day. There should be a lot of dignitaries at it. I assume the governor will be there, but I'm not sure. But it's a big deal. For now, it's on. There's a lot of things that could change, like they might not be ready to open the lanes, but I will keep you posted. We're going to post it at a public meeting in case several of you want to go. So, but we'll stay on top of it, I'm sure. And as you know, at our meeting on December 11th, we will have a representative from CDOT here to talk about that project. So you can ask any questions, and the public can as well. I also wanted to please keep looking at our Built for Mead videos. This website that we've set up, Lorelei set up, fantastic. We just reviewed 2 more videos today for 2 of our local businesses. It's very exciting. And if you can push it out on LinkedIn, on your social media, it's fantastic. It just gives great testimonials to the town. And then finally, we've had a few questions on Comcast As many of you have seen, they've been working all around the town. Right now, they're predicting that by the last quarter of 2024, so right about a year from now, everybody west of I-25 will have the ability to, buy Comcast. They will have run all the infrastructure by then. And by first quarter 2025, the entire town. So they're moving. It's pretty exciting. If you're out driving around and you see a traffic disruption, it's either Manny and his guys or it's Comcast. So those are all my updates, and I'm here to answer any questions on my report.
Questions or comments? Tricia?
I had one. So with that grant that came for the community center, I mean, we've already budgeted money for the community center to get it started and up and going. So, but we had delayed the splash pad. Are we going to then go ahead and add that in, or what is that? How is that grant going to be applied
Well,
immediately?
when we budgeted, we anticipated that we would get money for this grant. So when we put together almost $9 million, we included money from this grant.
Already.
At this point, we haven't designed the splash pad. So once we get under construction early next year, we'll know and we can advise the board if we end up with in the black on this project. We always intended that to be the next phase.
Right.
So if we see that, we need to do a little more research on it, not just the design of it, but the maintenance and how we would staff it, a few things. We want to go talk to some of our neighboring communities, but we pulled back on the design of it
Right.
to get this forward, but it's something we could start looking at as early as middle of next year.
Any other questions or comments? Oh, on the note of staff, we all thank you for all the work that you guys do when the grants. So thank you very much from all of us up here to all of you. So I know 5.7 million is a lot of money, lots of money, but it all takes us a team effort. So on behalf of us as a board up here, thank you very much. We appreciate the time and the effort that you guys put in beyond what you guys already do. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right, we'll move on to our informational items. The first one up is our police department update. Co-responder Leslie, I'm going to mispronounce that last name of Leslie, so I'm sorry. Koblenz. Oh, thank you very much. Our chief of police will be discussing this with us. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor, trustees. Tonight we have Leslie Koblenz and Jamie Clapp. Is she with you?
She's not with us.
Her supervisor wasn't able to make it with North Range Behavioral Health. Go ahead and come up, Leslie. This, as you recall, you've heard a lot about this program, but this is our collaboration with North Range Behavioral Health, the Crisis Center in Frederick, as well as the communities of Firestone, Frederick, and Dacono. And Leslie's been with us for
It's since July, so yeah.
since July. So, but we're very glad to have her on board. I think we're currently looking for a second co-responder to augment the program a little bit. But these folks are hard to come by. And so we're very fortunate to have Leslie, and I'd like her just to say a few words about how it's going and the experiences you've had.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. So yes, I'm solo tonight, which is fine, but so I'm Leslie Koblenz. I am the new co-responder. My main goal with my job is to get the police back out on the street doing police work while I deal with the mental health crisis phone calls, basically. So my role is my main office is at the Frederick Crisis Center. I watch the 911 system just like a police officer does. And when there's a call that comes in that is any sort of mental health related disturbance, a child or a teenager that's out of control, something like that, I go in, of course, I make it safe and, we communicate with the officers to make sure everything is safe. But I go in, I can provide de-escalation strategies, resources, I think is a big one for this area. Sometimes people just need somebody to vent to. So that's basically my job. I do, like I said, I try to get the officers out of the scene as quick as possible and get them back out on the street. So like I said, I am from North Range, so we are a huge mental health agency. We're trying to get a little bit more services down in this area. Most of our services are up in Greeley, but we've been fortunate enough to get the crisis center in Frederick and now a co-responder position. So for me, it's going really well. I've done a lot of crisis work before. I've been in this world for about 3 years, and it's going really well. I'm having quite a few calls, actually more than I anticipated. So I think that's really good. I think it's just building a relationship with the officers. I respond to Mead, Firestone, Frederick, and Dacono. So it's the Tri-Town area plus Mead. So again, it's just building the rapport with the officers to where they trust me to come out on scene. My main, I would say the majority of the calls that I've responded to are mental health. Not a lot of substance use, which I think is a positive sign. When I was up in Greeley, there was a lot of substance use. So hopefully we can keep that at bay. Let's see what else. As Chief said, we are hoping to get another person in my role because I'm only out on the CAD for Tuesday through Friday, 1 p.m. to 11 p.m. So we don't have anyone for Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or if I'm in a training or anything like that. So hopefully we'll get more funding and be available to have another person. Let's see. I mean, I think that's the majority. I don't want to take up too much time, but I'm here to answer questions. I'll do my best and we'll go from there.
First of all, welcome.
Thank you.
And we appreciate everything you've done so far. And I'm sure it's going to be smooth sailing from here. But as I say that, knock on wood. Questions, David?
Yes, I had a couple of quick ones for you.
Mhm.
Obviously, you had to address it's not a 24-hour coverage. On your hours of 1 to 11, you find that is the prime time for the majority of what you guys have been having to deal with so far? Is that when most of the calls seem to happen?
Yes, I would also say maybe a little bit earlier.
Okay.
I've noticed towards the end of my shift and not a lot's going on. I will say I did get a call from Mead PD last week that was about 10:30, but that's pretty much my latest call. So I would maybe say noon on. So maybe a skosh earlier.
Okay. And then when you're saying you're taking these calls, but it also sounds, are you actually going to the scene in some cases? Okay.
Yes, I get in my car that's an old police car and I drive there and I'm able to transport people and things like that.
All right. Are you alone at that point, or do you actually still have somebody else there as a backup or additional support?
Both.
Both.
So initially when I get on scene, usually the police are still there. Sometimes I've been to calls where I just take them on my own if I think it's okay. But yes, most of the time they are there.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We appreciate your time. See you
Thank you.
soon, though. Yeah. All right, next is our Little Thompson Water District update from the Water Resource Administrator, Amanda Hoff. And welcome. We appreciate your time tonight.
Hi, like you said, I'm Amanda Hoff, the Water Resources Admin at Little Thompson. And then I have Garrett Dixon with me. He's also a Water Resources Admin. And then Holly Cease, she's our customer service rep. And Garrett's going to hand out some tables because we didn't add them to the presentation beforehand. And then he's gonna take the lead on this, and Holly and I are gonna kind of just like pepper in. And if you have questions, feel free to ask them as we go through the presentation. But yeah, Robin had reached out to us and we're excited to be here. And we thank you for letting us take the time to come speak with you guys.
Yeah, and we'll just scatter the rest of the crowd about that. You want those?
Yeah, great. Hi, so I'm Garrett. Thanks for having us. First off, Mary, who's in charge of the clicker? I have the clicker. Look at that. All right. It buzzed. Maybe it's just slow. Aim that way? Okay, there we go. Okay. Right on. So here's a quick look at our agendas tonight. It'll be really, really quick, but we just want to give you a brief history on Little Thompson, how we're changing, how water and land use has typically been integrated within our district and how we see it progressing in the future, as well as give you a brief overview on our efforts as a district to further water conservation and really change the dialogue around our relationship with water. So we are a district formed back in the 60s. A group of farmers wanted to have an organization that provided and managed their drinking water. Since then, we have absorbed a number of municipalities and other small districts and have grown quite a bit. I'll show a map in just a little bit that shows you our area of practice, if you will. But you'll get an appreciation of just how much land we cover.
Yeah, just to that point, our district is about 260 square miles. So,
And growing.
and growing.
And growing. As you can see up there, we've got just shy of 10,000 residential customers and about 350 non-residential customers. That could include commercial, industrial. We have a couple dairies, that sort of thing. Right here, some statistics for you. I don't know when the last time you checked the state demographer, but this is our current population on the Front Range. By 2025, we're expected to get up to 6.5 million. And I looked at the town of Mead growth projections, and if I'm recalling correctly, right now you have about 4,500 people in the town. Is that right? Can somebody verify?
Oh,
Closer to 6. Okay. And the number I saw for 2030 is up to 12,000 people. So bear that in mind as we go through. Right here is a map showing the Mead growth boundary. I got this off of your website, one of the reports you released recently. And the black dotted line is our jurisdiction. So we are responsible for providing water to anybody within that boundary. And we are also obligated to providing water for the town of Mead. So that includes the red boundary as it extends south of our border there. So landscaping historically, we love our turf. Suburbia is built on, having big grass lawns. Non-essential turf is really, really popular. We'll go over non-essential and non-functional turf in just a couple slides here. Historically, irrigation systems haven't been particularly efficient. You think about the big tick irrigation systems and lawns. And until recent years, restrictions have not been thoroughly enforced. We have a very seasonal watershed, meaning we don't have the consistent precipitation that you might expect in the eastern states. And so when folks move here, they don't necessarily understand that we have a very what's the word I'm looking for? Finite amount of water. Going forward, we have a lot of ideas backed by practice across the country on how to reduce outdoor water usage. So of course, reducing the amount of turf, which is very inefficient with water. We're talking about prioritizing native or hydrozone or climate appropriate plants, talking about native grasses, shrubs, trees, that sort of thing. And increasing habitat, thinking about bees, birds, native critters that don't get anything out of turf. We're encouraging folks to think about omitting turf from their front yards entirely and just focusing on having a small chunk of grass in the backyard if they want to. And also increasing the buffer zones between concrete, asphalt, and turf, which create these heat zones that are very inefficient when it comes to water usage. I feel like I'm blowing through these, so if either of you want to chip in, just yell at me. So you'll hear a couple terms circulate right now: essential, non-essential, functional, and non-functional. Essential and functional, think of as the same thing. They're interchangeable. Las Vegas chose functional. The state just released, a note that they're going to use essential. So what is essential turf? It's irrigated lawn grass that provides a recreational benefit. So when we're talking about reducing overall turf, we're not talking about baseball fields, soccer fields, certain parts of the golf course, that's up for debate, but we want people to enjoy turf and recreate like they're used to. But we'll get into the specifics of non-functional or non-essential turf in a minute. As I mentioned, having turf right up against concrete or asphalt is super inefficient. So anything right next to those areas would be considered non-essential. So we're looking for that 10-foot buffer. Steep slopes allow water to run off, doesn't allow infiltration, doesn't allow those soils to take up the moisture. And as I've mentioned, medians along streets, entryways, those would all be considered non-essential. To reiterate that, turf along streets, steep slopes, medians, you name it, any of those areas that are not going to see traffic, where people are not going to choose to hang out, those are non-essential or non-functional examples of turf. So the main reason we were asked here tonight is to demonstrate our land use authority, and surprise, we don't have it. We have no land use authority. We're a water provider. We are obligated to providing water, but we can't necessarily control what people do on their property. We can't tell them they can't have turf. We can't even set a limit to the amount of turf. What we can do is say, this is how much water you're allotted, and it's your responsibility to stay within that zone, within that usage. So we need your help. You have an opportunity right now to define your land use code and incorporate some pretty progressive, forward-thinking practices to dictate how efficiently your water is used.
Yeah, and to that point, Garrett also put together some good water efficient land use code examples, and we sent them over to the town as well to kind of help streamline that a little bit. So we did share that with the town as well, which we thought would be helpful. So just
yeah. So again, what can you all do for us? What can you help us with? You can articulate a maximum allowable turf, have a discussion, see if that is a road you want to go down. If that's something you are interested in quantifying, let us know and we can help you figure out what that desirable, sustainable amount of turf would be.
And to that point in your table, you'll kind of see the turf square footage, and that's our recommendation when homeowners or developers come in. We'll recommend don't go over this amount, because we generally see people using more than they're allowed in their water usage. So that's kind of why we set those recommendations.
And we've tried to come up with they're mechanically the same size taps, but we tried to match the taps with the water allotment, and according to lot size, watching from experience and research that we've done, just kind of in the interesting dynamic of everybody moving here from all over the place and the education that we're trying to give them. Really the goal for all of this, and one of the reasons that we need your help, is it is so hard with, I'm customer service, so this is my my world of, we really want people coming here having a positive experience out of the gate. So setting them up for success rather than them coming in and then having to experience this, understand it, battle it, and then say, what do I do? We'd rather have the support and partnership to get people off onto the right foot, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know if it's in your bandwidth to offer rebates or anything of that nature, but that is something we do. We'll go into that in just a minute. You can engage with developers and help them understand, turf is pretty, but it's kind of a hallmark of the past, and we're trying to look forward at other options. You can also coordinate with folks around you. A big push right now is to have regional consistency in messaging. There are all these little pockets up and down the Front Range that are sort of speaking out of turn with each other. And the more we can coordinate, the more consistent information we can deliver, the more that word will spread and people will understand, all right, we've got to start thinking about outdoor landscaping in a different way.
And I know you guys have like a communications team and we also have Facebook. So maybe like just sharing our posts or sharing the same messaging as we are on our Facebook so that the residences aren't, you know, confused or because it is kind of confusing because we only provide the water, right? So it's like providing that consistent messaging to everybody. That's another way. And like I said, I know you guys have a communications team, so maybe they can work with us even or, you know, sit down and talk about good information to get out there. Because social media is a big thing these days, as we all know.
Okay. So we don't have land use authority, but we do make efforts where we can. So we have mandatory watering days. 3 days a week is our new baseline. And as further restrictions are applied, we can reduce that. But setting the baseline expectation of you get 3 days a week to water and being cognizant of when you water is something we definitely try to communicate. Holly can probably speak more to this, but having that direct interaction with customers about staying within their allotment as it ties to their lot size.
So everybody has annual allotments and depending on the size or type of tap, we work real hard to explain what that means. And I know like one of the big things is our customers panic a little bit and think it's inside, which we'll address in the next slide or two, that the majority of usage is outside. It's 50% of the outside use is what takes up the water and what costs so much for individuals. It's not your inside. We're not taking away the inside stuff. We're asking people to be more educated and efficient on the outside. That's where the problem is.
Yeah. We always say outdoor use is extra.
Yeah, it's a luxury.
Yeah. We're really concerned about the indoor drinking water.
For long term,
Yeah.
not just today.
Yeah.
We have to plan this all the way out, and for the people coming here and getting that information across to them that we care about you and your inside use.
Yep.
Right. And along those lines, we are introducing new tap sizes to better address actual use. We have a few years of data here now, and so we can make good decisions based on our neighbors up in Loveland as well, to try to better address and set folks up for success as they move in. As Holly mentioned, roughly 50% of your water usage is going to be outdoors. And so that's why we're beating that drum so hard. Indoor use really does not fluctuate that much. It's pretty consistent. And there's a lot of data across the country, not just here in Colorado.
Well, in Colorado implemented a House bill to have water efficient indoor appliances. So most of the houses now come with those. So pretty standard. Yeah.
Right. So the biggest margin to adjust here is outdoor use, just again, to drive that home. Maybe you can chat about this one.
Sure. So this kind of goes back to what Holly was saying with the annual allotments and people understanding how much water they have to use. So probably a lot of your new developments definitely have the urban taps, which is the 114,000 gallons. You'll see on the my left of your screen, but you can tell from your bill which tap you have. That annual allotment is that 114 is at the bottom of your bill. So you can kind of figure out which type of tap you have based on the bill. And then the standard tap has 228,000 gallons. And you can tell that because there's not an annual allotment at the bottom. We're working on getting annual allotments on all the bills, but it's a work in progress. And then to kind of have you go back to this table, come January 1st, we're adding a couple other taps, and that's to help with people staying in their allotment or their annual water use volume throughout the year. So that's what these allotments represent. And this is what we're trying to educate people on, because the urban tap has a $20 per thousand surcharge when you hit 114,000 gallons. So it really impacts your bill and it shoots it way up. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of education around this.
we're trying to customize this to fit more people as the dynamics of all of our service area is changing so much. Since we're primarily ag, but now everything's changing in all the different lot sizes and developments. So we're trying to, you know, balance that and still be customer friendly, but set people up for success, but still need help and partnerships.
So it's all out.
All right, so earlier I mentioned the mandatory watering days. That is part of our contingency plan that you can dial up. So depending on our communication to you, which, you know, is in tandem with Northern Water, I'm sure you've heard of them. We adjust our water usage as the year goes on, depending on a whole bunch of factors. But essentially through the spring, we hear from Northern how much water we're going to get. And depending on the snow year, that may increase or decrease. This year was exceptionally wet, and so there really wasn't a need to conserve. In the coming years, we are going to see drought years. We could see sustained drought, and those having the ability to dial up the conserve meter is pretty essential. So we'd like to encourage you to consider diving into that with us, even if it's just reposting our stuff on social medias.
Also, this plan is to help with water efficiency. We want to educate people. This is a big ask of people and teaching them how to conserve and limit their watering to 3 days a week. We understand it's a big jump. So that's another reason that our watch level is going to mandatory 3 days. We just want people to understand you don't have to water 7 days a week all day to get a green, like to have a nice lawn or nice plants or whatever. So that's kind of why we implemented this as well, is to just educate people like it's okay, your turf will live. Like you don't have to water it all the time. So that's another reason for that.
Well, and a lot of the couple of the lower levels are best practice anyway.
Yeah.
It's just getting people to know that this is what is best practice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You'll notice Ion Water there. That's an app we use that allows our customers to actively track their water usage so they can see a daily report of what they've used. And as they get closer and closer to that allotment, they'll be aware of it.
It's also really nice because you can see if you have a leak. Does anyone have the app? Do you have it? Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
All
That's
right,
exciting.
good.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say there?
With the water and land use integration, there's this program called Growing Water Smart that I've thought that maybe Mead and Little Thompson could potentially do together. It's to kind of help marry, for lack of a better word, marry the two. They've been doing that program for like 5 years or something. And so I threw that up there because we could probably work on doing something like that together. Non-potable, I don't know if you guys know this, but well, you probably know this. It used to be a ag land out here mostly. So we're looking at potentially doing non-potable supply out here. So people aren't using drinking water, treated water on their lawns. And there's a ditch out here that you can't change the use from units from drinking to or from ag to drinking. So kind of working with everybody to try and make that work. But we're still working on that. And then potential long-term supplies. As you know, as Garrett just mentioned, water is a finite resource. So we're going to have to look into the future and get real creative and throw darts at the board and try to figure out some long-term supply solutions, because it's not going to get any easier finding water in the West. Yeah, it's going to get much, much harder. So.
Okay. So we have a list of resources here. This is our second to last slide, and feel free to reach out with questions about any of them or specifics about them. But these are some of the things we are actively tied into. It's what we talk about almost every day. And there are a ton of good resources to help educate your town and each other as we go forward into a more water conservation mindset. Anything to add there?
We did go to Mead Days and it was very fun, and I just wanted to kind of plug that too. It was It was really fun to meet all the customers and the constituents. They were super excited about water efficient plants and stuff. So that was a really fun time too. Yeah. Yeah. So
The fire department went away with 2 or 3 cases of plant giveaways. We were handing out free plants, so.
yeah, so it was awesome. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Oh, did
Yeah,
you?
that's great.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, that's all we have. If you guys have any questions, feel free. Otherwise, if you think of more, you
Okay,
can.
I'm gonna go David and then Herman.
Fine.
David first.
Great, thank you. To start off with, yes, the Ion Water app is amazing. I use it all the time, and we had one of our grandkids had left the water just barely on the tap in the bathroom, and we would not have necessarily realized that, except for it said leak detected. So then you start searching around the house. So it is a great tool.
Good.
Cool.
So wanted to praise you guys for that.
Thanks. Yeah,
Good.
that's
First, the biggest thing on this one is I used to live in Arvada, and we obviously have had bad drought years, so forth. So they came to us, the water board, and said, we need you guys to conserve water. And this is my biggest concern, where I wanted to figure out how we can make this a win-win. That everybody did such an amazing job at conserving water, but obviously you guys have to have money too to fund things and do what you did, that there wasn't enough money, so they raised the rates. So then the people were like, why am I conserving water when all you're going to do is raise my rate? You're not helping me if I'm helping you. So it's got to be a win-win. And obviously, as you guys have just found out, we're going to probably double in the next few years, obviously. So we're going to be growing. So how can we conserve water, give people that opportunity, yet you're going to have more people moving into the area that are going to be demanding water and need that water, which is obviously going to be funding. But we need to find a balance in there, because I don't want to just start throwing things out, telling everybody to go zero-scape, and then all of a sudden the rates go through the roof and they're going to be like, why did I do it? So how can we work with you guys to balance where we can get people to start conserving water, but not have the rates go up?
right.
Do you have any options?
Yeah, I was like, I don't care.
I was just gonna say, one of the things from our side, and then I'll let her speak from the Water Resource Department. One of the things we just are been working through budget season, and that is a topic that comes up regularly. And how does that balance, and what does it look like? And it's obviously a conversation, because we had that happen, but it's not even just in the conservation, it's a wet year. If you have a wet year, which is rare, but it impacts us.
Right.
So what does that look like? So in a case like this, we do look at it, a pattern of weather, and making sure that we can adjust or cushion, make sure that we're okay in those wet years. So that being said, wet year aside, we have years or the conservation aspect. So looking at things like the tier rates, how many, according to tap size, what are the tier rates for that size? Because we're looking at what the allocation or allotment is for that tap, and is this tier rate gonna match this, help people keep in line with it, but also get the revenue that we need. So those are considerations. Other things that are considerations is, okay, reward the people that stay within their allotment. They just are the tier rates, because that's what it's costing us for treatment, delivery, infrastructure. But if somebody goes over, that's where the surcharges are. So people who stay within their allotment never see that surcharge. So it's a work in progress. You're absolutely right. Your comment, we appreciate that feedback. And if anybody else has experience or things that they have come across, helping us get that information to us so that we can consider, because we're going through, a growth change just like you guys are.
Right.
In everything. So having that information, so when we do collaborate between departments for different reasons, we can do the very best we can, because your point is very valid.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
The tier, no, that's okay. The tier rates are really what help us. If you stay in those lower tier rates, to your point, yes, rates are going to go up. And that's, we've seen inflation, costs are going up. We have to make sure that the water delivered is safe for drinking and we can get it to you, so that's just an unfortunate reality for everybody. But really the upper tiers are where we're really trying to smack people down. Like, you should not be using 100,000 gallons in a month. Like, you don't need to be doing that. And then implementing surcharges for all the taps, not just that urban tap that I was showing you earlier.
Okay.
Going into 2025, we're looking to add surcharges. So then those people are getting hit harder, and they're paying they're paying a higher cost.
So the tier rates are really where we're seeing for right now. And, again, we need feedback is good, but the tier rates, because then you're in control of your own destiny to some level.
Okay.
But we still need to have that revenue, obviously, to make sure that we have reliable water.
Okay. Next, our next step is I wanted to talk to getting some of the HOAs in here and get them involved with trying to allow people to do more xeriscaping and things like that. But again, like I said, I don't want the whole community to go do it and then the rates double the next year because of it.
Right.
So trying to find some balances in there and some win-wins. Since we had a wet year this year, do you guys have anything in place where that water that wasn't used can go someplace to be held for a future year? Do you guys have anything in development where you guys are trying to find places to store water?
So, kind of to Garrett's point, 100% of our water currently comes from the West Slope. So we're in the Colorado Big Thompson project, which is through Northern CBT. So they can store so much it's called carryover. We can keep so much in storage for the next year. And then we also own a reservoir near Berthoud out west, and it's called Dry Creek Reservoir. And we also store water in there when we have these situations. So yeah, we do have some places. And then to that point, like, we're always looking forward to new supplies, see if we can find more storage or if that fits into our portfolio. So
Okay.
yeah, we have ways to kind of carry it over.
Right. I was just trying to see if you guys had been actively looking at, as obviously the Front Range is growing, if
Yeah.
there were more opportunities for you guys to acquire. And I know it's obviously land that you need to be able to put the water to
Right.
hold it. So,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you guys have seen the Chimney Hollow project that started
Yeah.
in the 80s. It takes a very long time
Right.
to get
Right.
those projects going. So,
and then I just had a couple more quick questions and then I'll be done.
okay.
Water sensors. So we talked in there, you had conservation on there for certain water days and then certain watering times. Yet I've driven around and I see watering going on in the middle of the day, and it's open parks and recreational areas. What are you guys doing to try to help curtail that from happening on that side?
Right. Yeah. I was like, Holly is just calling
I'm doing my
people.
best.
Yeah.
It really is a staffing thing and finding the best way to get information out. I mean, we're constantly getting calls of people letting us know where things are. One of the things that we run into, and this was a good experience for us because I don't have a perfect answer for it, but we are working diligently to get us to as many people as possible and deal with the situation. Parks or a lot of common areas are tough because they're managed by like in development and stuff, it might be a landscape company. And the ones that we get a lot are not only not watering when they're watering during times when they shouldn't be, but it's also the leaks, it's that one sprinkler that's spraying, in the street and everything's running down or whatever. We get reports.
Yeah.
We get out as fast as we can. Sometimes the contact information changes frequently to the property management. We're trying to keep up with that, but they don't always think of us.
Okay.
So it's a two-way street that way, but also, a landscape company might have 10 properties, right? So they get a call, but they're over here. And by the time they get it, it's a day or two. And it seems weird, but by the time we got done talking to a landscaper at one of our last presentations,
Yeah.
they are really trying to do that because they don't want to. Now, I can't speak for everybody, but I want to trust them in good faith that they are trying to get it. But if they're over here doing this and then all of a sudden they pull a guy off and they get over here, it literally may be a day or two. But then they pointed out too, then something's shut off on the system, they don't know which one it is. We try to give them best directions or whatnot, and then they try to go get to it, and then they've got to get the system back on and figure out where it is. And so it does take a little more time than one might think. And that's strictly for those situations. The just bad watering practices, for lack of better terms. We are trying to figure out a quicker way and a more efficient way to get to people. And the Ion Waters, when we do get a hold of them, is really pushing that, so that we're trying to empower people to be self-sufficient. We did implement fines last year for certain things. So we try to things happen, but we try to give warnings, but we try to get on it right away and say, you know what, you're subject to this fine. And then it's the documentation and then getting it out. So it's a work in progress, but
Yeah.
we are
We're trying.
really trying.
Yeah. Thank you.
Harmon.
Okay, thank you. I have I guess comments and a question for staff, but let's start with the comments first. I totally appreciate what you guys are talking about and what you're trying to do. And I know a lot of our communities, especially mine, is already beginning to try to address that. But let me tell you what we're butting up against. We're butting up against a thing called HOA covenants. Old covenants. Ours, for example, requires 80% lawn in your front yard. It's very difficult and treacherous track to go down to not follow a legal document. And if somebody complains, it's a challenge. So we are trying to work through that and trying to find ways to get that. But my question to staff, because you mentioned in your presentation contacting or dealing with developers, is there any way we can shortcut that on the front end to new developers coming in and either getting a look at their prescribed covenants or requiring that their covenants do not have things like 80% lawn? And, especially if you're sitting on a 7,000 square foot lot with a 1,200 square foot home, it gives you a lot of space that you have to do something with. So that's one area for me that I think we can begin to attack to try to get to this point. That takes care of new build. Still have the challenge with existing neighborhoods because, and I know a couple of other board members, is not an easy task to change covenants. It's a very expensive task to change, and the homeowners have to buy into that. But that's something I think needs to happen if we're going to do any of this conservation stuff. Okay.
We also agree, and part of why we're going to the top, whether it's the counties or you guys or whatever, is that very reason, the trickle down effect. For so many years, we've been coming here and then going up, and it doesn't work because it's already done. We have such a diverse district in terms of where we came from ag, and now it's becoming more urbanized. So changing the mentalities on all of this has been very difficult with, consideration of people and the time and money that they've already put into things. Your home values, the mentality, all of these things we're trying to be considerate, all while faced with this finite resource that we have to manage. So also to your point, the state is coming in with different things with the covenants and the HOAs, and they recognize that. So they're trying to relieve that pressure a little bit. So while you're to your point, you have old covenants, but the state is saying, in this particular piece of that, you have to relax that. People are not forced to be tied to that. They are allowed to do some more of that.
Right.
Low maintenance, zero escape.
Right.
And I think it's going to take a lot of time.
Yeah.
But we need to continue doing that, and by reaching out to you guys at the top level so that you can help get that down. And same with Lerner County and the Weld County and Boulder, all of those things, we need help. We are working with the HOAs. We are getting them to recognize that, and collectively it's easier on some of the smaller developments that have few houses versus the larger ones. But you hit the nail on the head. We need help. It's definitely a partnership and we are working towards that. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
no, it does. I wasn't necessarily expecting, here's the answer to your problem. But understanding that a lot of people are working towards this, but some of the speed bumps and hurdles that they're running into as they're trying to get some of this stuff. I'm very familiar with House Bill 1137 and that helps a little bit, but it's still, you're trying to navigate through a maze to try to get to the end result. Yeah.
So we as staff, first of all, this is awesome that you guys came in. We have a very collaborative partnership with the people that I think are our water department. And I think they think the same of us. As a matter of fact, 5 or 6 years ago with the previous general manager, I worked hand in glove with them to get this conservation tap, because prior to that, they really were set up as a rural district. And so we worked really closely, and I'm glad to hear you're having more gradations in between. When we look at our land use code, we want to integrate these concepts. And I do want to make it clear that developers are just as tuned into this as the water department and as we are. We have to, when they talk about at customer service, where they're arguing with people about water use, we meet with the developers on the front end, and they're doing everything they can to try to get to the lower tap size because the water's so expensive to come up with these allotments. So we all are rowing in the same direction. I think the anomalies are the older subdivisions with those expectations of the greener lawn. But as you, and you'll hear that as we go through these spirited debates where we talk about the reason why we're pushing smaller lot sizes, among other things, is to get to even smaller than these urban taps. Because we've been looking at mobile home parks and zero outside watering use. But all of these discussions, we meet every other week in our development review committee, and I think we are all on the same page on this. And I think it's great to have our board of trustees engaged in it as well, because you all pay your water bill and you all understand what's going on. But Jason and I will talk about that. That's always been a problem. There are certain things that came along like chickens, 10 or 15 years ago, that some covenants didn't allow it. And then the state said, well, you can do it. So, and I do believe that the diminished water use, regardless of what the covenants and restrictions say, is allowed. But sometimes what's allowed and selling it at the HOA level are two different things too.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So.
Okay, thanks.
Working.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much for coming in, but I have a question, please. Please, it's kind of a detailed question. How's the ruling and the regulations for your actual rates? How is that changing from year to year? And the reason why I'm asking that is because there's some big lot people here. Okay. And I know a lot of big lot people there's a lot of large lot development here. And when I go through the rate structure, it penalizes the large lots by 50%. And I'm trying to figure out why that only tap size is 50% more from year to year. And it's pennies for some, but it's 50% for more from that. And so that's the reason why my question is why is it penalized for a residential? And I get the tapping down what you're saying. And thank God we have the app now, because we're using less water and costing more, which is, inflation is whatever. But I was just wondering how the rates and the rules and the rates are regularized for your district. So, that's maybe a question back to your board and to Amber of how it's not equitable. And that's the word that everybody uses on all different types of conversations. But why does those people get penalized more so than anybody else in your whole district? So, it's not, because because we live in large lots, we have these crazy HOA rules that we have to abide by, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to our water, which is fine because that's where we signed on the dotted line what we needed to do. But I was just wondering why those particular line items are so much more than any of the other ones. So maybe it's a question I can ask, at a later time, but that's kind of the kind of things that we go through in our conferences that we go through, is trying to figure out the best way to make sure the community is notified. And it from last year to this year, it drastically changed. And so it was a big eye opener for a lot of people. So that's the kind of communication I think we need to learn about and to say and to get out to the communities. If there's a way that we can do it, saying the reason why ...
Yeah.
So I just want to throw that out there because it was a big concern, and it's a big concern for me personally. But I think it's more of if we're going to change rates drastically in a residential versus commercial, because mostly here is all residential. And if there's something that's a drastic change that we need, that us get out to the community, it would be greatly appreciated, because it was like, I can go down the list. It's pennies, 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 and then it's a 50%, and then penny, penny, penny. So I was just trying to figure out the reason why, and I'll shut up.
Just
Yeah.
a real quick thing, we can elaborate and then get back to what you said about partnering with your communications
Yeah.
group. We could use that method if that works for you guys.
Well, and probably.
On a
sorry,
quick
go ahead.
one on that, is the allotment, the standard tap is our longest running, the tap that we've had that way for the longest time. So it was pretty much no matter what size lot you were, or ag or commercial, that was the tap. The reason that one specifically got picked on was because we know that if you hit 70,000 in 1 month, you are and that's just 1 month in the middle of summer, and you've got 3 to 5 months of watering, you are going to go over your allotment.
Oh yeah,
So
I do it every year. It happens.
It was a harsh way, but we were trying to figure out a balance. It's either implement that $20 per 1,000, and that would have really been way more painful. It sounds funny, but we were trying to do a stepping stone into that to get people's attention and say, hey, this lower rate, these lower tiers, you're going to be okay. These upper tiers, this is a warning, because if we take those away and bring those back down and implement that $20 per 1,000, it's going to be way more painful. So we were figuring out a way to get the message out, still cover that, and still make sure that our not hit everybody even worse than it was, but it get people focused on this is where it's going.
Yeah. And that's fine. That's fine. I just think that if we're going to do something, work collaboratively together in any district, along with any town, that if there's something that it's a drastic measure on a resident or a commercial or anything, that we need to work together to make sure that we're at least notified ahead of time. When the rates come out January 1st of 2024, and this goes bump, 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 then that's the time when we should be working together to notify people to get the app first.
Yeah.
And then watch what you're doing.
Yeah. And we appreciate that, because that is exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah.
We want that.
Yeah.
We definitely want that.
Yeah. But to your point of notifying you guys early, yeah, we could definitely
Absolutely.
like a few months ahead of time say, hey, this is coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
And just, yeah, that's a really good point that
Yeah.
we should be better about.
Yeah, we will definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to bring that up because, when I pay, I'm not telling you how much my water bill, because how much it is. It was an eye opener, but we were using way less than the last couple of years, but it was that point where the allotment was shortened, but the amount after that was like 50% more.
Yeah.
But if it happens to me, it's going to happen to anybody else in 4 or 5 of the other developments. So I think it turns a sour to a sweet,
Yeah.
so if we can get people at least at the January 1st, hey, listen, your rates are going to go up and this is the sheet. Here's your rate sheet. Get the app.
Well, we will definitely work
Good.
on that and the timing of it.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
And the combo, I like what she's
Yeah.
suggesting. Yeah,
I
okay,
also-
Let's do it.
okay.
All right. Thank you very much for your time tonight. We've been talking about this for a while, so thank you very much.
Good.
Yeah,
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the discussion, you guys, very much. Next we have our pavement management discussion, and Manny's here to tell us all about what he's been doing.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and trustees. I have exciting news, right? My name is Manny Winhorst, and I am the Pavement Management Program Manager. I think that's the longest job title ever. But I'm here to give you guys a report of what happened this year. Hopefully the clicker works properly. Okay. First, what is pavement management? Pavement management is a process of planning the maintenance and repair of a network of roadways to optimize pavement conditions over the entire network. It just sounds terrible, but that can be broken down to the ABCs of pavement preservation. And what we're talking about is the right pavement, what kind of condition is it in, and the right time, what is the age of the pavement, and the right treatment, and what can we do to treat that asphalt. And we'll also talk about what causes pavements to fail. Traffic load, heavy trucks, trash trucks, those things just destroy our pavement. Large trucks, farming equipment. When I see them going down the road, I'm like, how are we going to manage these overloaded beat trucks going through our town? It just kills our roads. Another thing that can be material and construction quality. Material is the type of asphalt, the aggregates, the oil. Is it being produced properly? Construction quality, do they build it properly? A lot of times utilities, sometimes I see our new roads being cut by the Comcast coming in. I'm like, oh no, our brand new pavement's getting cut and it's going to just shorten its life. Soil conditions out here are terrible. I'm from Las Vegas in the desert. Everything's kind of aggregate based here. There's a lot of expansive soils. My roof drains are on my lawn and the soil's growing. I was like, ooh, that's what our roads are built on, which is just, it's horrible for our roads. Exposure can be oxidation, which is like the sun and the elements, freeze thaw, water infiltration, anything chemicals, oil getting antifreeze on our streets. It all causes our pavements to fail. And drainage also is a very important one. I'm not sure if any of you have seen this. This is called a pavement condition life cycle curve. And what that is, on the good side, that's when the pavement is new. And as time passes, it kind of goes over there and the pavement gets less flexible and gets expensive to fix. Basically, we want to maintain our roads. We want to keep our stuff in that preventative maintenance area, which it's very cheap to maintain the roads. But if too much time goes past, we have to get into that rehab. It can be a little more expensive. And if enough time goes past, we get into the reconstruction phase. We want to keep our roads out of that. And basically what we want to do is we want to get all of our roads up to a condition where we can just maintain them, you know. And in Mead, there's a lot of things that were not built right and nothing was ever maintained. So a lot of our roads fall into that reconstruction part of the curve, which it's tough. It's a tough reality for us. What can we do? So in the very first part, we have the preservation. We can crack seal it, keeps the water out. Chip sealing, it's very inexpensive, fast, waterproof, and it improves the skid resistance. We can slurry seal, which kind of seals the surface of the road. It improves the skid resistance. And then a cape seal is a combination of chip seal, which is covered by slurry, which kind of makes it a little more friendly for everyone. Our next toolbox, as the pavement deteriorates even more, there's a thing called hot in place recycling, which basically leave the pavement in place, scarify it, add a little rejuvenator, add some more asphalt, and that kind of is a little bit of a cheaper version. An asphalt overlay, like a mill overlay, they kind of did that at 66 and 7 down here, where they just added more structure. That'll last for a while, as long as the asphalt's not in terrible shape. Also in a mill and overlay, where we mill off a predetermined amount and pave it back. As long as the asphalt's not in a terrible state, that can be done. But a lot of Mead falls into this category, the reconstruction, where the asphalt is just, it's beyond crack sealing, it's beyond slurry, chip seal, anything. And doing anything, to be frank, other than removing it and replacement is just kind of a waste of money. And we just want to try to avoid that. But getting these streets back up into that preservation part of the curve is what our goal is, or my goal. So current projects, what did we do this year? What was all that time spent and all of our money spent on? We had some concrete repairs in North Creek. There's a gutter pan that runs down the middle that didn't drain properly. Few little pieces downtown that we repaired. And we also reconstructed a lot of roads, basically removing all of the asphalt and repaving it back. In the town up in North Creek, we removed all the asphalt, paved it back. The Hunter's Ridge subdivision, we removed all that asphalt, and in the Seekage Business Park, we removed all that asphalt and repaved it. Those are major undertakings when we go into those areas and remove the asphalt and pave it back. The crack sealing, we did Mead Court and Mead Street over in the business district. We did that because it needed it. Downtown, we crack sealed, and Hunter's Cove, we crack sealed. The slurry seal was intended for downtown, like the older part of downtown, and the Hunter's Cove Road. That got delayed due to some scheduling with our contractor. So that's just going to be pushed to next year, which is not a huge deal. And here is a map of that North Creek neighborhood. Everything that's highlighted there was removed and replaced. And there's some numbers up there on the cost. The total cost for that neighborhood was $637,000. It's a lot. And there's a number that at $43, that's an important number. So kind of hold on to those in your brain as I go through them. This is an example of some drainage issues we had on Serena on that North Street that runs east and west. If it doesn't drain properly, that water is allowed to seep onto the asphalt, causing cracking and failure. And then it just kind of continues to fail the asphalt, gets into the subgrade, and it just causes lots of problems. So we'll go in and we'll replace anything that's not draining properly and then do the pavement. So now that water will not sit on that new asphalt and seep into the grade and destroy it. Here's another. This was hard for me when I went in that neighborhood and looked at some of these driveways. I was like, that's in front of somebody's house. They have to drive in that. Their kids have to walk in it. They have to walk in it. And it's just an eyesore. So we fixed some of those driveways and fixed the paving so it all drains properly. And it does look pretty amazing in there. None of us would want to live with a driveway like that. So inside of that North Creek subdivision, I remember when I started here, Erica took me to that subdivision and she said, guess what you're doing? The first project. I was like, oh, this is fabulous because this is terrible. There's just not a lot of room. There's a gutter pan in the middle. There's trees everywhere. It's very, very tight. You can't use traditional paving equipment. We use traditional paving equipment, but the trucking, we had to switch to these smaller trucks. That gutter pan was extremely difficult to work around. We could do one half of the street at a time. But our contractor did a great job in there. We had to maintain homeowner access at all times. When you're repaving a street, especially with that gutter pan, getting somebody across a 6-inch drop off into their house every day was extremely difficult. So we just milled and paved every day. I mean, they started at 7 and ended at 7, and their schedule got a little bit, they'd have a few days off here and there, but they went in there and did a great job. The equipment access I talked about, it's a little difficult in there with not being able to use large trucks, and that pan made it very difficult. I had a lot of communication with homeowners. I sent out a flyer, gave them my phone number. Anybody had any questions, I said, please contact me in case there's anything. And a lot of people called. I'm in a wheelchair. I have this, that, and the other. I have a daycare. I was like, just call me that day. We're in there. I'm always in there. Let me know if you have anything special. And that helped a lot because all the problems got solved quickly, which was a huge help for them. And we talked about the trees a little bit. So yeah, it was a very difficult neighborhood to pave in. And I'm glad there's not another one like it in Mead. Because I'd probably be retiring really quickly if I had to go back in there. But we did construct the road properly. Now, if we do go back in there, we can slurry seal it. And then at some point we can just mill off 2 inches and pave 2 inches, which makes it very easy. A lot of streets are not in that condition, but that is my intention, is to make all of our streets where we can just maintain them easily. Hunter's Ridge Drive, that is just kind of south of Adams by 32. So this cost per square yard was $66. Well, why is it different? It was $180,000. Well, the reason it was different was because when we went in there and started milling it out, all the streets started to fail immediately. The trucks were sinking almost up to 2 feet. I have a little Ford Ranger for work, and I had to put it in 4-wheel drive to get in there. I was like, oh no, this is terrible because there's homeowners in here. But we switched gears quickly and we did a treatment called the cement treated base. And what that does is we come with a special equipment, dump cement on the street and mill it into the grade, and then we can pave on it days later. So it's a very efficient, quick, and sometimes expensive process. So yes, it was like $20 per square yard difference in cost, but you get the street back to rights pretty quickly. And I have some pictures. Yes, sir. Yep.
So with that change for that particular street, does that extend the life cycle of that street because of that type of?
Yes. So what happens is when we go in and look at these streets, I'll go and drive and look at all the streets and see what kind of condition they are. We had a computer model that said, here's what you need to do. Well, when I go out there, I say, here's what we should do. But when you remove the asphalt and stuff starts failing instantly, you're like, oh no, here's what we have to do. But yes, that added significant structure to that subgrade. And that street is going to last a very long time. So yes, we can come back in 20 years and that street may look exactly like it does now because we added a lot of structure, a lot of strength to that street. Is it necessarily cheap to do that? No. If I can avoid it, I'm going to avoid it every time. But if it shows up or you can't pave on it yet, we're going to cement treat it immediately. So right by Hunter's Ridge, I'm not sure if any of you are familiar. I'm familiar because I got in trouble hitting it one time with my wife. There was always a huge puddle on the southbound County Road 7 at Hunter's Ridge. Well, there's some drainage issues and we corrected that drainage issue by adding a drainage pan and regrading the ditch. So it should make a big difference in the winter time on that County Road 7 right there. So that was something else we fixed out there. And a lot of homeowners were like, yeah, we always get splashed by, cars driving down the road. You can see how the sidewalk is wet. So hopefully that has been completely eliminated. So this is the Hunter's Ridge cement treated base. On that photograph on the left, there's a special machine they bring in there and mill cement into the subgrade and then regrade it. And literally it's ready to pave 3 days later. So we could pave with confidence on that. Those trucks weigh 60,000 pounds. If there's going to be something that's going to fail, it's going to fail. So that's always the canary in the coal mine, mind you, when we mill it off and the asphalt trucks start to settle. I'm like, oh, great. This is just fabulous. We didn't expect that. Here's another photo of Hunter's Ridge. This was in the cul-de-sac. You can see the asphalt there was nothing bigger than a 6x6 inch piece of asphalt and the trash trucks were just blowing it apart. And now the cement treated base in that cul-de-sac, it's going to last a long time. Hopefully it will outlast me. And because like they said, yes, I get extremely hostile homeowners sometimes when I'm in there working, extremely hostile. And they were, at least one of them. Moving on to the next slide. In the Seacrest Business Park, we redid all of those businesses in there, all those streets, that South Valley, and North Valley. Now, if you look at that cost per square yard, which is $61 and our total of $806,000, it's a little bit different than the others. And what happened in here is we only had one street fail. When we started running trucks on it, the South Valley and Valley were fine. I was like, oh, great, we can do the north one. And as soon as we milled the north one off, it started to fail. I was like, why did it fail? It's just unexpected. We don't know until you pull the asphalt out and start driving 60,000 pound trucks on it. But we're able to quickly cement stabilize it, which adds structure. Why are those streets different? I don't know. I mean, we built on farmland out here that didn't do it right in the old days, but now we're going to make it right by doing what we're doing. Also on Deer Court, we just, same thing. We milled the asphalt up, pave it back. Now this one is the cheapest, 56. Why is it the cheapest? We didn't have to cement stabilize anything. We went in there, pulled the asphalt out, paved it back. Everything was fine. Very easy process. That was a total of $158,000. And these numbers, this cost per square yard, that helps me when I'm out estimating stuff. I look at it and I can say, here's exactly what these neighborhoods are going to cost with our current bids and our pricing and what's supposed to happen. So that helps me also getting these numbers. Here's what that Seacrest Business Park looks like. The one on the left there, South Valley. And actually a lot of the businesses, right when we got done, started improving their parking lots and their grass. And I was like, oh, they have a little bit of pride in the town of Mead now that we replaced their streets. And it was nice. It was nice to see them doing that. So that's kind of a little bit of a bonus. And Deer Court there on the right. And here's our downtown Mead. So this was supposed to be our preventative maintenance area. We crack sealed it. We did a little bit of patching, a little bit of drainage repairs. We didn't get to slurry because of that scheduling conflict we had with our slurry contractor. But our cost would have been $104,000 for all this area. And that cost per square yard is between 5 and 6. So obviously we want to get our streets up to where we can just put a preventative maintenance treatment on them. And that is the goal of pavement management. Get everything up to where we can just maintain it because it's dirt cheap. When you look at how much we pay, it's dirt cheap just to maintain the stuff. And this is in front of the police station. This was kind of added last minute. We're like, what are we going to do with this? I was like, we have to replace all this because that's just it's an eyesore and the guys had to drive through there and everything's just muddy and looks terrible all the time. But now it's great over there. I mean, everything is dry and clean and nice and new. Here's an example of our crack sealing. And this was on, I think, Fairbairn maybe, or maybe Martin. They basically blow out all the cracks and then they add this hot liquefied asphalt that pours down inside of it. Keeps the water from seeping down inside of the pavement because that's what our goal. We want to keep that water out of the pavement because that's what destroys our pavements is that water getting there. And like I said, it's that preventative part that's very, very cheap to do. Here's an example of what the crack sealing looks like later. The ones on Fish Street and then Main Street. So everything that we did this year, we had $187,000 of concrete repairs. We had a little over $2 million of asphalt repairs. Our crack seal repairs on everything was $31,000, and their intended slurry seal repairs was $130,000, but that'll just get delayed till next year. And it was a lot. We spent over $2.3 million, which is a lot. That's a lot for a small town. And this town's never done that. This town has never done that, but everything went great. Everything went really well. I mean, if you do get a chance to go look at that North Creek neighborhood, go look at it. I've had nothing but positive comments over there. So it went really, really well. And this is kind of a visual aid, but a computer model and a machine can go out there and say, here's the condition of your roads. Well, now we have me. I can go out at those streets and make better determinations of what needs to happen and when it needs to happen. So I'm going to update our 5-year concept program and get better pricing, a better idea of what these streets are going to cost now that we have some streets that have been built. So I'm going to be updating our 5-year concept program this year and get a display out that says, here's what we can do for the next 5 years. So I'm going to be working on that this winter. And what happens when I go out and look at those streets, I'll mark patches out that have failed, do concrete repairs that need to be upgraded, measure everything out. So I get exact numbers. I have this massive spreadsheet that calculates everything and just gives me exact everything. That comes with cost estimates, market prices we have. We've turned all of our contracts, we've made all of our contracts into renewables where we can just keep the same contractor and the same prices no matter what happens out there, as long as they are willing and we are willing to rehire them every year. And plus that allows us, what can we fit in the budget? How much can we do? What fits in the budget? And that also has me coordinating with the utilities, because the worst thing we can do is cut our new asphalt. Right when we were starting North Creek, Comcast came in. I was like, can you guys do this neighborhood first so you don't have to cut my brand new asphalt? Because that's just a crime for asphalt, putting utility patch in it. It just seems terrible. And we did that. We did that utility coordination. Also a development coordination. We don't want to be fixing a street when a developer is going to come in, remove that asphalt and build their own street. So working with the development and the utilities and things that are new, I make sure that whatever I'm doing is not going to be wasted money. That way, everything is just not a waste, basically. What do we have next? Does anybody have any questions for me or
Thanks, Manny.
anything?
Questions, comments? Chris?
Can you go back 2 slides?
Yes.
I know this is nitpicky, but that's not Western Meadows.
Yeah, that's what I mean. This was the Kimley Horn thing that they did.
Okay.
Their like presentation. And I was just a visual of what is going to get updated. Like none of these streets are what's going to happen. But yeah, I will update this and provide maps and a clearer picture of what that's going to look like going forward.
Yeah, that all the stuff
It's
that's
just not what's highlighted.
everything that's highlighted is not Western Meadows.
Yeah, and it's, like I said, it was just a snippet that is not accurate, but it's just going to provide you an example of what our 5-year program will look like.
So is that map showing then what the plan is next year, or is
No.
that just
That's just
an example?
Right. Because that was, like I said, that was like a computer generated model of what needs to happen. And then I'll make like a human model, walking on the street and making those estimates. It'll make an entirely different model than that. Yep.
Question 2.
Yep.
All of that was in budget.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Everything was in budget. Yeah. Because I took what I had, measured all these streets out exact, and then everything was well within budget. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's utilizing the 1%.
Yep. All that's with the 1%. Yeah. And then we had some signs made. So when people saw that work, that would remind them, this is your 1% tax at work right here. And we had those signs made and put them inside of every work area we had.
Yeah, I think that I've seen those too, but only because we drive around quite a bit and just take a look at what's going on in the town. But I think there's still a confusion for some people that don't see those signs.
Mhm.
They think that we're not doing anything. So again, I think it's a lot of communication, just making sure that people realize, hey, you're not getting done this time, but you will get done in the future. So
Yeah.
Manny, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And what keeps you up at, oh, I'm sorry. See, I have to look because I can't see.
You
Chris.
talked about utility cuts. I know Comcast has been out just cutting into roads. 7 is an example. I mean, are we going back and checking those? Because the ones on 7 right now are sinking.
Yeah, so we have when they get permits and they do the patch and they do have a warranty. Everything we do has a warranty. And there have been patches there's one on southbound 7 that had settled south of 32.
Yeah, I drive over it every morning.
Yeah, and they did repatch that one there. But yes, if anything gets out of the town specs, we should go and
because it's getting much lower.
Which one is it?
The larger one that's closer to 36, right there.
Yeah, I mean we
There
can
are
look
3
at
in a row, and 2 are really nice, and the third one is a car swallower almost.
Yeah, it might be a temporary patch. They usually do
Okay.
pretty good on their permit.
I just know
patches.
a lot of people that come down because I live out in Margot Farms, so that's the way we come into town. And a lot of people, they come and knock on my door and tell me that that's getting deeper, and I say report it online. But I know from driving over myself, this morning it was kind of scary.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it. But yeah, that's where I get my information sometimes when people, you don't feel like you're saying, we're complaining. No, that's where I find out what I need to do, and that's from the town staff, that's from citizens. Please call in, email and say, this is a problem, because that's what a lot of miscellaneous patches I do around town. It'll be a problem. And then I'll go put a bigger substantial patch down and then it's not a problem anymore. But yeah, it's fine to call in and we are here to keep the streets safe. My family drives around on these streets. I live in Mead also. So yeah, the citizens help us find out what needs attention out there for sure.
Thanks, Manny.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our proclamation tonight. Women's Place is 45th anniversary of our domestic violence advocacy for November in 2023. And we have tonight the executive director, Diane Helt. Hopefully I pronounced it right, with Women's Places. And she would like to say a few words about this important mission.
Yes, I just want to say thank you so much for taking care of Weld County and this piece of Weld County. A Women's Place is the only domestic violence shelter in Weld County. We serve 400 to 500 people a year, and the number one referral we get people from is from our law enforcement. So we work really closely with law enforcement, and we're grateful for each of the pieces of Weld County, and not just city county center that gets a lot of attention. So yeah, that's the gist of it. A Women's Place is 45 years old this year. And we're proud to continue serving Weld County. So that's my quick update. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions? Go ahead.
I do. Does the shelter allow pets?
We allow service animals, and we don't allow pets. The service animals, the 2 questions we're allowed to ask by state law is it a service animal and what service does it provide? Other than that, we're not allowed to ask any questions about pets.
Well, because I know that for a lot of people in domestic violence situations, they won't leave if they can't take their animals.
Absolutely.
Because they know they're leaving their animals to the mercy of that abuser. So they won't leave.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of an important thing. Like, how do you guys plan to address that?
Great question. So we can't take them in the shelter because we have a lot of kids and people with allergies and things like that. But we work with the Weld County just transferred its what's it called? The shelter, the new animal shelter.
Oh yeah, Laramie.
There we go. Yeah. So it's Laramie and Weld now. Both are in Weld County at the shelter, and so they can take pets up to 5 days. No questions asked as long as we're referring them. And then they can stay with them. We also have grants from Red Rover that we can pay for somebody to board their animal for, I think it's up to a month. So we work really closely with people who have pets to make sure that even if we can't take them in the shelter, we can help support them to take care of their pets while they're seeking services.
Awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions? All right. I've asked Trustee Harris to read the proclamation, and after we do that, I'll sign the proclamation, then we'll get a photo.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Wonderful.
Okay. All right. You're on.
Right. A Woman's Place 45th Anniversary of Domestic Violence Advocacy, November 2023. Whereas for 45 years, A Woman's Place has responded to community needs and advocated for survivors of domestic violence, building hope through community collaboration and working to create a better community for all. And whereas A Woman's Place seeks to follow its mission to shelter and empower survivors of domestic violence to become safe, secure, and self-reliant, and to mobilize our community through education and collaboration to prevent domestic violence. And whereas A Woman's Place continues to work closely with local law enforcement, offering resources through coordinated community response that provides hope to survivors and saves lives. And whereas A Woman's Place helps domestic violence survivors and their children through 24/7 crisis line support, safe shelter, and confidential services completely free of charge, providing crisis advocacy, case management, legal advocacy, employment advocacy, housing advocacy, and behavioral health support to the community in multiple languages. And whereas A Woman's Place serves the needs of survivors in our community without interruption, without interruption throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. And now, therefore, Colleen Whitlow, as mayor of the town of Mead, does hereby recognize and express gratitude to A Woman's Place for its ongoing efforts to strengthen our community and recognize A Woman's Place in honor of their 45th anniversary, given under her hand and seal of the town of Mead, Colorado on this 13th day of November 2023.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the signing of this proclamation?
I'll motion to approve the signing.
I'll second.
Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Harris,
Yes.
trustee Broadhead,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Strands,
Yes.
trustee Parr,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, motion carries. We'll all, as I sign this, go down and get a picture with Miss Diane. All of us in the picture. All of you, get up. We can get a picture.
Go home. She's been sitting here for an hour and a half waiting for us. Really?
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Appreciate the time that she had come all the way here for us tonight. Okay, we'll move on to our first public comment of the evening. The board welcomes public comment for any item, whether it is on the agenda or not. The board will listen to your comments and take them in consideration. If you desire conversation, please email the board or town manager or attend the monthly coffee with the mayor. If you wish to speak during this public comment period, please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Please start by stating your full name and address for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board of trustees. If you are representing a group, you will have 5 minutes. Is there anyone in the room that would like to speak during the public comment? I see none. Is there anyone with us virtually that would like to speak to the board?
There's no one online
All
tonight.
right, thank you very much. We'll move on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda contains items which are considered routine and are approved with one motion and vote. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
A motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
trustee Broadhead,
Yes.
trustee Strands,
Yes.
trustee Parr,
Yes.
trustee Harris,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you, staff, for putting this together tonight. We appreciate it very, very much. Okay, we have no other general business for the evening, and I will call on anyone again if they want to speak to the board. Hey, seeing none. Any of the town trustees have any reports they would like to bring up tonight? Seeing none, I would just like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I think our year has gone by so fast. We're blessed to be together, and thank you very much for the board and for the staff. I really do appreciate all of your time and effort for this community. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Harris,
Yes.
trustee Shranz. Trustee Broadhead,
Yes.
trustee Adams,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
trustee Parr,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. The November 13th, 2023 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees is now adjourned at 7:32. Thank you all very much for the time you've given us tonight. We appreciate it. Thank you, board, for being here, and have a good night. And again, happy Thanksgiving.